It's just been like consistent, like 10K above months.
Downloaded it, I checked the date, July of 2021, and then I left my job in September of 2021.
Since then, I've sold websites, I've pivoted my business, I'm no longer doing social media management.
What has been like your highest month?
13K.
It has literally changed my life.
When you were designing on WordPress, were you charging way less? Like, what is that like?
Yeah, way less. I think my first WordPress was like $500.
$500 for a WordPress site versus like up to $5,000 for a show it site.
All right, welcome back to the channel, guys. Today we have with us the one and only Morgan from Bloom Social Studio. You've been one of our full OG students.
I know.
We're so excited to have you on here today.
Honestly, yeah, welcome.
Excited. Thank you. I'm so excited to do this.
Yeah, you really are like an OG student. Like that's definitely, I feel like how people think of you too. They're like, she's the OG alumni.
Yeah, I stalked you until Wealthy Web Designer dropped and I was like, I'm in.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Okay, so fill everyone in. If let's say they have no idea who you are, who is Morgan, give us all the deeds.
Okay, so I'm Morgan Teixeira. I was a lash artist for, I think, 5 years, licensed esthetician, did beauty school, went that whole route. And then in 2021, I officially closed my lash studio, quit that, and became a web and brand designer and a social media manager. And it started when I found Becca on TikTok and Instagram. And I was like, yeah, I need to be her. I need to know her. And then as soon as Wealthy Web Designer dropped, I was like, let's see what this is all about. And I loved it. And yeah, I quit lashing. I think I only did both the web design and the lash artist life for 2 months. And I was like, yeah, no, I'm going full-time. See you later. And so, yeah, I'm coming up on 2 years of doing this already, which feels insane.
Wow.
And yeah, I don't do social media management as much, maybe 2 people. I'm totally dived into all the branding and web design. And yeah.
I love that. I love that so much. Well, first of all, congrats on 2 years. That is I feel like, I know that there's actually statistics backing the case of people that don't make it, but I think that there's once you reach past a year, there's 14 months or something in business, you're in it. You're not probably going to quit at that point and you're really invested and you're going to make it.
I could not imagine ever working for someone else ever again, or even working for myself, but having to go take in-person one-on-one clients. There's absolutely no way. So yeah, I'm in it for I'm here to stay, hopefully.
I love that. So I'm really curious because since it's been 2 years, how does it feel when you look back at the last 2 years? And because realistically, obviously you've done a shit ton of work in 2 years to get to where you are now, but really 2 years is also it'll go like that. And just 2 years ago, you had an entirely different career. Yeah. How did it feel when you look back and you're like, what the fuck did I do? I just literally bombed that past career and started a whole new one.
It literally feels like, what the fuck just happened?
Yeah.
It feels so much longer. When I think back to lashing, that feels not even me. That feels a whole different life. But then at the same time, I'm I still feel I'm okay, I'm still figuring stuff out. I'm still learning as I go. There's no way I'm already 2 years into this. I keep saying, I was thinking about when I had interviewed with you for Wealthy Web Designer, and I can't figure out when it was because I'm oh, it was last year. Okay, no, 2021 wasn't last year anymore. Where am I at? It feels I was just sprinting. And then now that I'm oh, okay. I'm wait, what just happened? But also, how was that only 2 years? It's the weirdest feeling looking back.
Doesn't ever stop. I would say that's exactly how we feel all the time.
And I think it's crazy because you get to start working, you work for yourself, you get to create your own hours, you get to create the rhythm and flow of your business. Yeah. And I feel it really does kind of mess with the concept of time because it can really, really start to fly by, when I would say your day-to-day life is more enjoyable for what you're doing for work, and you get to create when work is and when it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's your concept of time is messed up, because for me, I almost live by the month of like, okay, which clients I have this month. But at the same time, like, I don't really follow a day-to-day schedule because that just doesn't like work for me. I don't like to plan out my days like to a T. I know some people like love that, but for me, I'm like, no. So it's so funny because I'll literally feel like, okay, like, oh, we're halfway through February. Okay, the month's over. But then I'm like, oh, well, it's only the 14th. I have so many more days to get this done. Like, my concept of time is so messed up. But for me, like, that flexibility, like, I live for that. Like, I don't want to have to remember, oh, I have 4 clients tomorrow. I start at 9 a.m. Like, I like the flowy, but yeah, when you stop and look back, you're like, wait, what day am I even like on in my career right now?
Definitely. I feel like one of the biggest time differences is like the days of the week, how you said you live by the month, where when you're an entrepreneur and you're working for yourself, like you don't have what there's like all these like names, like the corporate names where it's like Friday, you have like Friday syndrome, or like Wednesday hump day. What are those like days? Do you know what I mean? Where it's like, it's not like you're like counting down the minutes to get to Friday, to get to your week. Because
every day can be Friday.
Like, what do you do on the weekend? You could have done it on a Tuesday if you wanted to. Like, you have so much more flexibility. So I do feel like, and that's a huge perk, wouldn't you say, about building your own business?
Oh yeah. Like for me right now, working on the weekends is what works best for me because my fiance's home. He can help with the puppy. Like I just have more time to literally only focus on work. And everyone's like, oh my God, why are you working on the weekends? I'm like, because Monday can be my Saturday. Like it literally doesn't matter. Like there's no, and for some people, I know that like lack of structure can feel stressful, but like you can structure your time however works for you. And that's like the number one perk to working for yourself, having your own business, being able to basically like create whatever life you want. Cause you're not even just talking about your work schedule. That's like your entire life. So that's like the number one thing for me for like why I wanted to be my own boss in general.
I love that so much. So I'm really curious, because you mentioned that in your past world, which is like your other job, your last job, you feel like you're a different person now. Mm-hmm. Who are you now that's different than the Morgan 2.5 years ago?
Not to be all dramatic, but I just didn't thrive on having to take one-on-one clients. And like, in the beauty world, everyone says to be your own boss. You know, you're not commission, you're not, you know, an employee, whatever. And that's true, but you're still an employee to your clients, if that makes sense. Like you can't just be like, oh, I don't feel good today, I'm not coming in. Where the hell are you going to move 5 people if you're fully booked? You don't actually have flexibility. You have the flexibility to say, oh, I'm going to be off by 3 every Wednesday, but you don't have the flexibility once people are on your book and counting on you. And for me, like obviously in life, you're going to have commitments, you're going to have some sort of schedule, things you have to do, but having that every single day, it just didn't work for me anymore. And I was like, I adored my clients and I adored what I did, but on like the business level, like I was miserable and I was overwhelmed all the time. I had so much anxiety that I couldn't figure out like where it was coming from. Like I was sick every morning before work and I'm like going to all these doctors, like figuring out what's going on. It was my anxiety over the pressure of feeling like I had no control in my business, even though everyone said like, oh, well, you own your own business, you're your own boss. And so I would say that I was very overwhelmed and stressed out back then. And now I finally feel free and in control. And I feel like so much more creative because I'm doing something even more creative. And, you know, there's no limits on where my creativity can go and like what I can do. And so I would just say like, I'm more at peace. I'm so much happier. I'm so much more confident in myself, like as a business owner. Like it seriously is like a whole nother person. Like it's insane.
Wow.
That's awesome.
I love that. So fill us in a little bit on, let's kind of break up your journey into like phases. So like, let's look at phase 1. So let's talk about like the first 6 months of your business from like let's even just discuss the time that you decided, because I feel like that's like a huge moment in everyone's like decision making is like, okay, I'm actually going to do this. Like, holy shit. I feel like sometimes that's harder than actually like once you get into it, right? Like just make a decision.
Yeah, that's like the first jump. And like, that's the hardest one to take, to admit like, oh my gosh, I think I'm ready to quit my job right now. Like I'm going to do something crazy. So for me, it was, I honestly don't even know the exact time period it started. I just know that it was during COVID when everything was shut down. My business was shut down. You started popping up and I was like, oh, that sounds cool. And then I'd see you again. I'm like, huh, like I want to do that. And at some point it was getting closer to me having to open my business back up. And I started getting anxiety all over again that I hadn't had in months. And I was like, okay, no, something's wrong. Like if work is making me so miserable, something's wrong. And you were teasing, I think, that you were getting ready to drop Wealthy Web Designer, I think.
Yeah.
And I was just seeing more and more information for you. And I was like, I feel like I can do that. And so I made the decision. I was like, okay, I'm going to cut back on lashing. That's what I said. I'm going to go down to 2 days a week. And the other days I'm going to work on web design. And as soon as I took the class and I took a couple like guinea pigs, I was like, okay, that makes me so much happier. Like I'm enjoying these other days more than my work days. Like I'm done, but I knew I couldn't just like ghost my clients. So I gave them 2 months and I told them immediately, I was like, I'm quitting in 2 months. You're going to have to find someone else. I'm doing this. And they all knew, and they started to feel like, oh, she's ready to be done. Like she can't wait to be done, you know? So I would honestly say that I took the leap pretty hard. As soon as I knew there was a course, I took it and I was immediately sold, and like my mind was made up right there. But like, it really was just kind of slowly realizing something else could make me happier. Something else could make me more money without having to like trade every second of my life to it. So in, I want to say, I think May 2021, I told my clients that I was leaving and I closed my studio in July.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I know Wealthy Web Designer launched like end of April of 2021.
Yeah.
So it's like
literally right.
boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
All.
Yeah. And then when I launched so like I told my clients in May, I told social media, it was like June 1st. I was like, I'm launching this business. And I immediately had so many applications from people in the industry. And I was booked out to, I think, October within like the first couple weeks of telling anybody. Before I was even closing my lash studio, I'm like, wow. Oh my God, I wish I was closing it sooner. Like I need to get going on this. So it was very, very like April, I fell in love with it. In May, I said I was going to do it. July, I was out of there.
That is
incredible.
So incredible.
Honestly.
Yeah.
What if that next little while, like you kind of launched it to the public, you got an influx of demand from kind of the community that you were around. What was that next step of like, okay, we've got to manage the transition out of doing lashes into taking on digital clients? What did that all look like?
That first, like June and July, when I was taking my first couple people while still finishing up on my lash clients, that was really hard. That was a lot of managing my time. And, because of course, all I want to do is every day of the week, I wanted to jump into these projects. It was new and exciting. So having to kind of like figure that out. And then once I was like full time in the design world, it was honestly just a matter of figuring out like how much time each project would take me. Cause I messed up and I was starting like 2 new people every week. And I'm talking for like long-term, like custom projects. And I was like, okay, well now I'm drowning.
Yeah, too much.
It was like, I dove a little too deep here. So then it was a matter of figuring out what I could handle.
Yeah. Also
figuring out like pricing. Like it was really figuring out the basics because I dove in before I had that figured out. Like I was like, well, I'm just going to figure it out as I go. How better way to figure that out. So that was the next phase, was finding the balance, finding what boundaries I needed to set. And also figuring out like my process. Like I had some people texting me because that's what I was used to with my other clients. And I'm like, okay, whoa, I don't like this either. So I literally dove in and had to figure, like, that was my learning time.
And at that point, had you already gone through the whole Wealthy Web Designer curriculum? Nice.
Yeah. And it was definitely a transition of unlearning how I ran my lash business and then actually applying. Because I mean, the first thing Becca says is like, take what applies, leave what doesn't. And so I still had some old like business habits in my brain, and I had to slowly learn like, okay, no, I'm going to forget that and do Becca's way. Okay, I'm going to tweak this. This is what works better for me. So it truly was like, I dove in before I had my business carved out, and having the wealthy web designer to be like, okay, this didn't work. I kind of got screwed over because I didn't do this. Like, let's go back and see what Becca says to do. And then being able to like pivot with the next person. It was literally like having a book of like web design for dummies, having wealthy web designer. Like, it made a huge difference, like helping me navigate and figure all that out.
I love that. I do feel like, because obviously having to unlearn what you've been doing is, I think, going to be really relatable to like anyone who's been in any kind of job position, because it's like you're untraining a lot of the time. The way you've been doing it, it's so drilled in that this is the way. So as soon as you pivot into something new, like it's inevitable that you're going to be having to figure it out. Like, what is this like? But I love that you took messy action. And I think that that is what, from an outside perspective, what has helped you grow quickly and really sustainably. Like, you were willing to make the decision and then be like, I'm going to book these clients in, and I don't have it all figured out, but I'm going to be okay with being okay with that. You know what I mean? And I think that that is really what sets you apart from other people maybe who are like feeling really stuck. And ultimately it just comes down to being okay with figuring it out along the way, which is exactly what you did. So kudos to you.
Thank you. Yeah. A lot of people will message me and be like, well, I don't have XYZ figured out. And I'm like, you're not going to. And they'll be like, well, I want to do this, but I don't have the details worked out. I still don't have details worked out. I still wing stuff on a daily basis, and you learn and you figure it out. Like, there is no right time for anything. Like, and when I say that, I mean, like, when you're nervous about something, I don't know if there's ever going to be a point where you're like, oh, I'm 100% comfortable. Or if you do get there, like, it's 5 years later. Like, you get comfortable by being uncomfortable and finding your way back to your new comfort spot. You know what I mean? Like you said, messy action is still action.
Well, and if you think about it, I always love to look at something as like, why should it be comfortable? Or like, why should it be easy? Like, when you look at what you're actually chasing from like a realistic perspective. So for you were chasing the ability to leave your career 5 years, start a new business that you had absolutely, like, 2 months prior, you had never even heard of, like, you had no idea about anything. And you needed to jump all in and wanted to make X amount of money, like whatever your financial goals were. Why should that be comfortable? Like, it doesn't make sense. If it was so comfortable, that'd be like, wow, that's crazy. I've never heard of that. You know what I mean? Like, it should be like raw and this new experience, because that means that it's growing you. And that's how you're going to reach this like next level you.
Yeah. And there's like this saying that I'm probably going to butcher, but it's like, to get to the person you want to be, like, you have to do things that you wouldn't do now. Like, you have to already be doing what that person would do, even when you're not that person yet. And that's seriously what I did. Like, I just jumped in, and if someone asked me a question or to do something I didn't know, it was, I'll get back to you when I do know that. Like, you have to put yourself in the situations that are uncomfortable. Otherwise, you're not moving at all. Like, and not saying you have to be uncomfortable for the rest of your life. Like, no one's saying that running a business is uncomfortable every single day, but it's, you have to get to a new point of comfort. It's a different comfort. And you have to go through the uncomfortable phase and the hard phase and the, I have no idea what's going on phase to get there.
100%.
Yeah.
So when you first started, you mentioned that you were like figuring out your pricing. And I know just from a personal level that like you've raised your prices and you have evolved as you've gone, but do you mind filling us in on like when you first started, when you hadn't even shut down your lash business yet and you got those applicants, like where were you at price point then?
It's a joke. I honestly, dude, I don't even remember. I know that I charged someone like $350 for a website like overhaul. Looking back, I'm like,
Morgan.
I know.
But also, we have to start, and like that first person got you to like probably another person.
Oh God, yeah. She came back to me and paid me a lot more later.
There you go.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's worth getting paid to learn, even if it's like a fraction of what you'd want to be paid. I stand by that. So
I think I was doing 1,000 for brand and web design.
okay.
And social media, I thought I was making bank when someone gave me $500 a month. Like I was, which I mean, compared to my, like what I charge people for lashing,
Yeah,
it felt like good money. And
it was.
Yeah, I mean, back then I was living at home. It was cool, but definitely nowhere near that now.
yeah. So fill us in a little bit about the evolution. Let's see where you are now. Hopefully it's not there.
I just raised my prices again on custom. So, oh my God, I should know this off the top of my head, but I literally just did it. I want to say I'm at like 5,000 for custom brand and web. And for me, like, I know some people will be like, you can charge way more, but, and this might sound bad, I don't do things that I don't want to do. Like I don't do SEO. Like I have my limitations on what I do. So the price point finally matches when I'm delivering, if that makes sense. So I do like $5,000 for custom. And then I did add on more like express stuff. It's not website in a week, or website in a day, but it's, you know, like a quick, like 2-week turnaround, for just a brand, excuse me, I'm at like 1,200. And it's like branding basics. Like it's not strategy. It's like brand identity, basically. So again, for me, the amount of time that takes me, the price point like finally matches up. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So so it's been 2 years now. And what would you say, like, how many clients are you working with? How do you have like, how many, what's like your capacity? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah. Adding in the express kind of stuff, that changed it a lot. And also I've kind of like slowed down for personal kind of stuff. So it's no longer like hustling and wanting like a packed month. It's truly like only what I can handle. So with doing the express, I would say I start a new client every week, every other week. And then I have like my 2 social media clients still. But I will say I am booked until May. So I'm still booked. I'm just not, I'm going to say I'm not busy, because I'm not busy in like a bad way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say like 3 or 4 a month.
Nice.
I love that, because clearly like your business is killing it. You're closing clients and bringing them on, onboarding people every week. Like that's insane, and charging thousands of dollars for it. But you're not at a point where you're like burning yourself out. And I think that maybe has it taken the time to just jump in and learn, okay, this is too much for me. I'm actually going to like scale back, but charge more so that I'm not getting burnt out. I'm just like more sustainable.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. And like my personal life has gotten just insane. Like I got my first apartment, I'm planning a wedding, I got a puppy, like a ton of medical stuff came up that's taking a lot of appointments. And so when you like, sometimes when people think about their capacity and what's burning them out, they only think about work. But the reality for me is it's 50-50. My personal life is just as crazy. So I just kind of realized like, yeah, I was burnt out. Like I wasn't sleeping. I was up all night working, and it like just on the hamster wheel. I literally felt like I was on a hamster wheel. And don't get me wrong, I was so appreciative because that meant that I had a shit ton of clients coming in and I was hustling my ass off, but finally burning out and going like, okay, no, I need to slow down.
Yeah.
But then making the mistake of not charging more. Then I'm like, okay, I'm burnt out and I'm broke. Like I had to finally find my sweet spot of work smarter, not harder, and, charge more, work less. That's it. That had to be like where I finally got. And it took a while to learn that, because like I said, it took off so fast as soon as I started that I didn't have time to even like think about figuring that out.
Yeah, totally. I think that's why I'm such a big advocate for yours is called Express, and obviously it's a little bit different, but I'm a huge advocate for a website in a day or a website in a week because of that, because you're still delivering the value. So then you can have the price point that matches it, but you will not be burnt out as much if you have tons of custom clients and you're just turning and burning and like working on so many things at once. It's so overwhelming. Like your nervous system just can kind of get shot really quickly. Whereas if you do an Express or a website in a day, or website in a week, you're able to really scale back and like be able to nurture your life and what you need in your life and business and all of that, and make the money probably the same, if not even more sometimes than if you were like hustling, working with all these different custom clients.
Right. And yeah, like I think that website in a week is definitely something that I will do. It's just even a week isn't enough flexibility for me with my personal life right now. But like someday I want to do website in a week. I want to do website in a day, because I don't want people waiting months and months and months to work with me. But I also like, I want it done quicker. I want to be able to reach more people without feeling like I have, 8 people tied to me for the next 3 months working together. And the website a week, day, express rates, whatever you want to call it, it gives you a lot more flexibility and a lot less overwhelm. You're not stuck on a hamster wheel. You're actually just working at a sustainable pace.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm curious. So two things. One, how many websites do you think that you've done in the last 2 years, starting from that 350 all the way up to 5,000?
I have literally no idea. That's horrible.
I feel like that's a cool question, because I
feel like if I didn't like recently count, I would have no idea.
Really?
It's a hard question to know.
All right.
Yeah, I will say not as much as you might think.
Okay.
Because a big learning experience for me was, you can take on 8 people, but you can't finish 8 people fast. Like I had a project that we worked together for like 6 months, because we both were just like, she was in a crazy busy season, I was in a busy season, and you can't balance 8 people quickly. So not as much as you might think. And I don't even have a ballpark number. I have literally no idea, but I'm sure if I counted, it would absolutely blow my mind.
I bet it would.
Yeah.
I feel like that's kind of where my next question is. Now that you have kind of gotten to a place where you are able to take a breath and almost adjust to what the lifestyle that you've created is. You mentioned moving out of your parents, moving into an apartment, getting engaged, getting a puppy. These are all really, really big kind of like life achievements, if you will, and moving forward. And I feel like there's something to be said about needing your business is the vehicle that allows all of those changes to happen, especially in a comfortable way. Yeah. But then I feel like there's something to be said about needing to actually pause and adjust to the lifestyle that you just created.
And just enjoy it.
Exactly.
Like, I mean, it's crazy because I probably could have achieved all of this stuff when I was a lash artist, but it would not have happened as quickly. And I think I've done the math. We wouldn't have been moved out right now at all. I would have still been living at home. And the thought of being engaged, but then never really seeing each other because we're both working 24/7, or like, I would not have my dog. There's no way that I would have gotten a puppy, because I would be out of the house 4 or 5 days a week all day. And so, kind of acknowledging like, okay, my business is what got me here. And like, there's always a next goal, right? There's 50 more goals all the time, but being able to actually just go, okay, a year, 2 years ago, like, this is what I wanted. Like, I'm going to stop and enjoy it. Like, I feel like some people forget to do that. And it's also honestly like a blessing to be able to do that. Cause like I said, with lashing, I wouldn't be able to stop and enjoy it. I would still be out of my apartment every day working, away from my fiance every day working. And so, I'm very lucky to be able to stop and enjoy it, but it's really important to stop and enjoy it. Otherwise, you're working for your business, like you're living to work, not like working to live your life. So I definitely am in a point of like, I'm okay that I'm slower than some people would like in their business, but like, I have so much more stuff going on that I'm enjoying that like, I still feel like it's very fulfilling.
I love
That's
that.
the whole point of
Yeah.
all of this. And like, even aside from other people and their businesses, whatever they're doing, like, I feel like this whole journey that you've
Yeah.
now been even more than 2 years on of just trying to figure out entrepreneurship, figure out being an adult, being a business owner, if that aligns in the cards, which it did. I feel like there's been so much learning that it's like, wow, like take a minute, look at what you've created, and then, you know, readjust to what you want moving forward. Because I think what we want moving forward also changes as we and our lifestyle change.
Yeah. I mean, I remember asking you, I don't know how long ago, I think right before the holidays, I was asking you about like hiring people on, scaling. I had like ginormous financial goals. And obviously, like, who doesn't have those in the back of their mind at all times? But I kind of just, my goal was to not have to hustle hard for just a little bit. Like, I'm not saying I want to like coast through life and like, you know, business doesn't take work, but like for right now, I wanted to make my business as easy as possible and give myself the flexibility for my personal life. And so your goals can change like that. And I mean, one thing comes up and suddenly you have a whole new goal.
Yeah.
And yeah, my goals right now, I want to pay for a honeymoon. I want to pay for a wedding. I want to be able to spoil my dog. Like, I want to be able to have, you know, 2 days off a week to just literally not talk to anybody like about work. Like, my goals changed from hustling to sustaining big time.
I love that. And it sounds like you've made that possible. Like,
Yeah.
from making the pivot from your lash business, that the web design business that you've built has allowed you to even, one, consider that, and then two, actually make it happen.
Yeah, I would not have been able to make this happen if I wasn't doing this. And if I didn't set up my business in a way that worked for me. It's easy to get caught up in what everyone else is doing and how everyone else is doing it. And this bit, finding my way in my business, doing this is the only reason that I've even been able to take a breath. And it sounds weird to say you had to like hustle to take a breath, but it's just how it worked out. And yeah, I mean, honestly, everything that I have right now is thanks to this business in this industry.
I love that. So remind me, you've taken Wealthy Web Designer,
Taken
all of them, every single one.
Yeah.
Okay. If someone is watching this and they're like, okay, I know that I want to do this, I want to become a web designer, where would, from your personal experience going through all of the courses, recommend starting?
Honestly, I kind of want to say CEO Show It.
Okay.
Because the Wealthy Web Designer is, you know, mostly setting up your business, getting clients, figuring out your process. And you might feel like super confident to dive in after that, but then be like, okay, I have no idea how to design a website though. Like, and that's what a lot of people have like said to me. Like, I have this client, and I don't know what I want to do. I'm still figuring out Show It. So I honestly think that figuring out Show It and practicing your design style a little bit, in my opinion, is the best place to start. Because then when you get the client, then you have like, you're ready to go on both ends. You know your design, you know the technical side of it, and you were able to land a client and you know that kind of process. So I would say CEO Show It, and then Wealthy Web Designer. And then I feel like you can dive in and you're good to go.
Yeah, I love that. So what I typically recommend is doing CEO Show It and Wealthy Web Designer in conjunction with each other, because because I totally agree. I feel like if you jump right for Wealthy Web Designer and you build out the business and you, like, let's say then book a client, you're going to be like, what the fuck do I do? How do I actually build out the site? Yeah. Whereas if you just take CEO Show It and you don't have any of the business stuff done and you just know how to build websites, you're going to be like, where are the clients? It's cricket. Yeah. So I feel like doing them together and like really applying yourself, let's say 2 months, 3 months to learn both aspects of the skill and the business, then you're like set up for success. Do you agree with that?
Completely agreed. 100%. Like, if you can take both at the same time, it's setting you, it's like you said, there's two ends of the business. There's two sides to it, and you'll be set up completely. Like, The other courses are like incredible, but these are your framework. Like these are the bones of everything that you'll do going forward. So yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I love that. So are you using the library still in designs?
Yeah. And the ones that you added recently, like I freaking love like the shop and the product. I was like, oh, I'm finding a website to use this on. And I did. And honestly, like it saves me so much time. And even if like, so I'll have days where I'm like, I can't think of anything to put in this damn spot on this website. Like I have no ideas. And I'll plug something of yours in and it'll grow into something completely different. Like it'll look totally different, but the bones were done and it still like laid the framework for me and still like, I mean, it speeds up the process a ton having like I said, like the framework of it already done. So yeah, I love the library.
Would you say that that's your primary use of the library? I feel like this might be like the first time I've talked to a student about you have the library, you have it kind of in your back pocket. Like, how would you say that you actually have incorporated it into your business?
I used it for my templates, for my website templates, and I use it for my custom projects, my express projects. Like if I have we'll call it website in a week. I keep saying express, but it's based off website in a week. Okay. Like I've had a client come to me and their industry didn't apply to the templates I had because it's for the beauty industry. And I'm like, well, I can still do it quick because I got the library. Like it doesn't have to be my template and I could still put together something faster for them. So for me, it's a time saver is how I use it.
Yeah,
like saving time on being stumped on ideas, saving time on, building everything from scratch. Like that's primarily how I use it.
Well, and when you are a business owner, you know that time is money. That is learned very quickly.
Yeah.
So you're actually like making more money as you're saving the time.
Right.
I'm also curious if you feel, because it's like already all pre-built out for you, if it allows you to just be creative. Because I think that that's sometimes like, that's the most fun part about being a web designer. But then sometimes when you're like having to be like strategic and like map out where goes what, that is what stumps you. And I feel like if you can plug these things in, then you just have literally like the ability to just make it above and beyond and put your own unique style on it. But like, that's just the creative element that you then get to put on it.
Yeah. And it lets me just focus on being creative because Showit is the easiest platform to design on, in my opinion, but like you still have to build everything out. And like I got to the point where having to make everything and put everything together, it was like slowing down my creative process. So I started using like Adobe XD and kind of designing stuff. And then I was like, well, I'm gonna have to go build it like all over again. Like that, freed up my creativity, but like it just sucked up so much time. And so, having the library to just plug into Showit, it's already in Showit, it's put together, it's going to be used in the final website, but then I get to be creative and play with everything else. Like that's huge for me because if I'm stumped on like the technical side, my creativity is like, it's done. So I did a website for a friend of mine. She's like a speaker, a coach, a stylist, all this stuff. And her site is like the most creative, colorful site that I've ever made. And majority of it was from the library. And it looks nothing like the library. And I don't think I would have gotten her site that fun, that creative, and done that fast if I didn't already have the bones, like, mapped out for me. Cause that's what I did. I went through from the library and I put this whole site together and it looked like a hot mess because it's all pieced together from like a bunch of different like themes. And I'm like, okay, I can work with this, and like went through and did a whole overhaul. And I think that's my favorite website I've ever made, honestly.
And it's so fun. Like that you're getting paid to do that. It literally like that, when I think back to being a kid and I would get like a coloring book, like it's literally that. It's like as if you're like a child in a coloring book, but you're getting paid and it's your career.
Yeah.
And it's so funny that you brought up doing like Adobe XD because when we came out with the library at the time, I was coaching a couple of web designers, one of which coincidentally we have a student interview with later today, that was new to me in that their first step of closing a client after that was doing the wireframe in Adobe XD.
Oh.
And they were doing that before they went into Showit. And I was like, why would you do that?
Yeah.
Like it seems like a fully extra step. And I was thinking, how do we create something that goes from wireframe to design? It's already, it's like you're bringing in this section, but they're already done for you on mobile and they're already designed. So I'm so glad to hear you're using it in so many ways. The templates, I feel like, are the hidden, I don't know, the hidden gem, I feel like, of the library on top of the custom work. So
yeah.
Will you talk a little bit about your template shop? You launched it recently. Obviously, you went after really, really beautiful and cool templates. What has that all been like?
Making the templates was like a long process. I talked to you guys about it forever and I'm like, I'm launching soon. 6 months later, I finally launched it. But like for me with my templates, the missing piece was like the stock images. Like there wasn't enough that I liked for the beauty industry. So I partnered up with my photographer and we made some for it. And then I was like, oh, I can make 1 million of these. Like it made a huge difference. And so I finally got those launched and it was like a huge first month. I mean, that's like what I used to pay for my puppy. Like that was my goal and it hit it. And I was like, okay, this is a win. I got what I wanted out of this. Like, cool. And then
passive income.
Yeah. And that, cause I was on top of my other clients. Like it wasn't like, oh, I need to take another client and dedicate 6 more weeks to someone to get what I want. It's I'm just gonna hustle and sell these templates real quick and I'm good to go. And honestly, the holidays it was a lot. I kind of like disappeared off of social media. I wasn't email marketing. So to be completely honest, because this is business, I haven't really sold that many since, but it's in direct correlation to just me not marketing them. And I know that is the difference because when I do market them, they sell. When I do talk about them, they sell. And then when I go ghost, obviously no one's gonna buy something that no one's talking about. And like, I kind of acknowledged that and was fine with it. Cause I was like, okay, it's passive. Like it's on top, like my bills are still paid. It was extra. I don't have the time and energy to dedicate to marketing those. And I was fine with that. But having them in my back pocket, that's what I use as the bones for every single like express website in a week client that I have. So even though I'm not selling them passively, they're still helping me get more clients in and make more money. And so I'm so glad that I finally got those made. And I have a few more that I'm launching next month. And I'm going to like really get back into gear with like actually marketing something that I'm selling. But they're so handy to have like in my back pocket and also to have when I do want passive income, I can just, push some email blasts out and I'll sell at least a couple. But yeah, I definitely don't think that I would have done templates at all if it wasn't for passive passion project. I wouldn't have done it.
I'm glad that you have them. I think that that's kind of one of the coolest parts about opening up your business to also having products, especially that are digital. When I launched, like I had a Pinterest course, I had resources for Pinterest managers that were digital. And I feel like, as you mentioned, they make your client process internally a lot easier.
Yeah.
And they give you another thing to market in your business that's not your primary offer. Right. So I feel like it's also this really nice kind of like juxtaposition for your audience to not be sold the same thing, the same price point over and over again.
Yeah.
How much are your templates and who are they for?
$497, and they're for the beauty industry. Basically, I have each template has 2 different versions, like page versions, for either solo or people who have a salon, like with people under them, because a lot of people don't know how to make a website to cover that many people without it getting clunky. So I made sure that my templates kind of cover both aspects of the industry, but they go for $497.
I love that.
Pinterest, I feel like, can be that evergreen tool also to keep them continuously selling. Yeah. I think in an industry like that, even something like Etsy as well, where they can generate the search volume for you, where you don't have to be talking about it all the time.
Yeah.
The industry is one of those industries that is more on the untapped side of templates, especially, that just make their life easier. So I'm super excited to kind of see those continue to scale as well.
Thanks. Yeah, the goal is to get a Pinterest manager to do it for me and keep that going. That's definitely like number 1 on my goals. Cause like I said, now my goals are sustainability. And if it's outsourcing, then that's what I'm going to do.
I love that. Yeah. Love it. Okay. So to round it out, I am curious if someone is watching this and they're obviously like wanting to become a web designer. That's probably the most realistic of who's watching this. And they want to hear like how you did it. And if it was worth it. I'm really curious, like do you have a piece of advice or like words of encouragement for someone who maybe hasn't made even the decision yet, but like they know they want to?
I mean, I guess the words of encouragement for me, like what I would have needed to hear back when I was kind of hesitant before I took the leap. It's just that this industry there's no limit on what you can do. There's no limit on how much you can grow. There's no limit on how creative you can be. And I just feel like life is too short to spend so much time so unsure versus just go for it. Just give it a go. And I promise you're going to love it. And if you don't, like, no harm, no foul, but I really don't see that happening. Like, if you're worrying, you're obviously thinking of worst case scenario. And the worst case scenario is you got to do something fun for a while. And then you figure it out, or, you turn it into something that works for you. That's the beauty of this, is like, you're not stuck at a 9 to 5 where everyone's telling you what to do. You can create whatever you want out of this job. And this job doesn't have to be, oh, you own your own business now, you have to burn yourself to the ground all the time, hustle nonstop. You can create something that lets you live your life and enjoy your life. Like, obviously no one said that entrepreneurship is easy. That, like, no one said that, but it doesn't have to be you burning yourself to the ground for your business. Like, you burn yourself to the ground every week for someone else's job at your 9 to 5. You can create something that lets you live a very fulfilled life, or have more time for your kids, have more time to go travel, have more time to freaking work out, like whatever it is that you want to do. This job gives you the flexibility to do it, and it'll like fulfill you as a person too, if you're a very creative kind of person. And also connect you with some really awesome other businesses. Like, a couple of my clients have turned into like legit friends. And I'm like, I don't know if that's professional to like give you my number and be like, hey, text me tomorrow. You're cool. But I've done it because I liked them. And like, you just create so many connections with other business owners that you've worked with and helped, that you've connected with, that also do design. I don't like, you just have to do it. Honestly, like, it's a very fulfilling and flexible career. And I think that you can tell yourself you're going to do it, and also slow down and be realistic, like run your numbers, figure out what you need to do to be able to, financially take care of yourself while you're making the transition. Cause that's a reality. And I think that just make the decision to do it, and just kind of make like a 2 to 3 month plan to do the transition. Or if it takes you longer, that's okay too, but just take the first step of, I'm going to do this. Like, just admit that to yourself, just say it, and the rest will fall into place. Because I had no plan. It was just, well, I lived at home, so if I fail, I'll stay with my mom, but I still did it. I still took the first step of, I'm going to do this. And I can't imagine if I didn't make that decision now, looking back.
Yeah. I mean, your whole life has changed, honestly.
Yeah. I was like reborn when I made that decision.
I love that so much. So where can people come become internet besties with you?
Internet besties with me. Mostly I'm on Instagram mostly. So Bloom Social Studio is my Instagram. And I'm in my DMs like all day long, cause I'm a chronic scroller all day long on Instagram. But yeah, so find me at Bloom Social Studio.
Definitely. Everyone go connect with her. She's amazing. And I'll also have everything linked down below too. So if you want to go check that out, but thank you so much for coming on and chatting with us and opening up really about like all the amazingness and also the realistic perspective, which I love. And I think that it will really inspire and ground people to like, I think that people really can feel empowered to making this decision if it truly is right for them. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much.
Birds on the swing, swing, swing. Hold up and don't stop, baby.